My entire Wednesday night was sacrificed, as I was forced to answer any and all questions that each and every investigator had for me. Each task force had a working theory, none of which seemed to me to have any real merit to them. At around 3 a.m., after being interviewed so many times that I lost count, I was told that I would be protected at a motel out of town. I would have a 24-hour guard with one that would join us for extra protection during the night. Rory and I were left to ourselves in a motel room in Boulder. For those of you not from that area, it's about 45 minutes from downtown Denver and about an hour from my apartment complex. It wasn't as far away from home as I had hoped, but apparently it was as far as Captain Patterson would allow us to go. In the morning, I awoke to Rory going through his notebooks while a muted and subtitled news program played on the TV. He gestured to the tiny motel room kitchen and mumbled, "I got some food." He had purchased us both some breakfast burritos. If my appetite weren't ruined by the insanity that was transpiring around me, I would have inhaled that burrito. Anyways, that's beside the point. Throughout the day, we went through all of the paperwork. Due to the sheer number of different forms and reports, they kind of all blurred together, and attempting to chronologically lay out our night of research would be impossible. So, here's what I've learned about the tragedy that befell the Pattersons in September of 2014. Angelina Patterson's disappearance. Captain Clive Patterson's wife was last heard from by him, and, by extension, his son, Peter, who was present at the time of the conversation, in which she told Clive she would be taking a long walk around the trail around the Cherry Creek Reservoir, which admittedly is a lovely walk during sunset, which is the time she was purported to have been leaving. It all makes sense. She'd even spoken on the phone with her sister Grace earlier in the day, saying that she had been wanting to take that exact walk for weeks, mentioning a time in the past that they walked it together. On top of all of this, Clive Patterson's reputation as a hero cop and a highly effective police captain kept him from being seriously considered as a suspect and resulted in his word being taken as a resolute fact. The investigation found no solid evidence, and there was no trace of Angelina, aside from her car parked at the reservoir and her cell phone destroyed on the asphalt beside it. The case went cold, and the city mourns for Captain Patterson's loss. However, true crime forums across the web feel the investigation was lackluster, and the vast portion of those who know the case in detail feel that Clive killed her. Through the past, there have been reports by neighbors of domestic altercations, including multiple reports in which witnesses stated that they had seen through the windows of the house Clive striking Angelina. Due to his status as a police captain, many of these complaints seem to never get checked out. Spousal abuse aside, multiple teachers of Peter expressed concern after seeing large bruises on various parts of young Peter's body. Again, these incidents seem to simply go uninvestigated. Fancy that. Clive wasn't the only member of the family that frightened those around him. Peter, as a child, had a reputation in the neighborhood as a bit of a psychopath. When he was 10 years old, the Pattersons' next-door neighbors, an elderly couple by the names of Ed and Margaret Woodstock, filed a report with the police that their 2 cats had gone missing, and they believed Peter had taken them. No evidence was found, and it was blamed on the fact that Peter was a bit of an odd child, and the Woodstocks had a reputation with the police for making incessant calls and making baseless claims. The Patterson family was made up of blonde, tan, picturesque people with handsome faces and strong bodies. However, young Peter was a scrawny, small boy with dark, long, greasy hair. His classmates described him as a loner, a weirdo, and creepy. Peter never really clicked with his family, and as soon as he was 18 years old, he left home, starting art school. However, for some reason, the weekend of Angelina's disappearance, Peter was in town. Angelina went missing on the evening of September 21st, 2014. Here's a timeline of what is known about how Miss Patterson spent her day. 9:31 a.m. Grace, Angelina's sister, called Angelina's cell phone and, when interviewed by the police, stated that she woke her sister up with the call. It is during this call that the sisters speak about walking at Cherry Creek Reservoir. At around 11 a.m., Margaret, their neighbor, saw Angelina depart, and around 11:45-ish, Margaret saw Angelina return. She had gone to the grocery store and had a number of large bags that she carried inside. Margaret made sure to mention in her police interview that no one ever helped Angelina put the groceries away. At 1 p.m.-ish, the Pattersons had a shouting match while at lunch at Red Lobster. It was reported by all witnesses to have happened around 1 o'clock. With their time of arrival varying largely from witness to witness, the manager stated that things never got violent, but their argument was apparently disruptive enough that he almost asked them to leave. But, due to the Pattersons' frequent visitation, he knew that Clive was a police captain and he did not want to fuck with that. At 1:17 p.m.-ish, from referring to a surveillance videotape of the parking lot provided by the manager, the Pattersons can be seen getting into the car and departing. 1:33 p.m. A text sent to Angelina's phone to her sister Grace reads, "I can't believe Clive." 1:39 p.m. A response from Grace, "Oh my god, what this time?" 1:41 p.m. Angelina, "He just loses his shit at nothing. He screamed that I was a cunt and Red Lobster." Grace, "Disgusting. He makes me want to throw up." Angelina, "He's always had this. I don't know why I think he'll change." Grace, "Man never do." Angelina, "I thought he wouldn't pull anything with Peter around. Peter's never around." Grace, "Clive is a pig." Angelina, "I thought he wanted to try to keep Peter around. Nothing quite like screaming in Red Lobster to put a welcoming atmosphere." Grace, "Preach. Clive is still like 5 years old. He needs to grow up." Angelina, "He threw plates in Red Lobster." Grace, "Oh my god, dramatic much?" 2:11 p.m. Angelina, "I have to start getting dinner ready. Talk to you later. Love you." Grace, "Dinner? What the fuck is 2? What is this, Thanksgiving? I'm not funny. Call me when you can. Love you, bitch." 3 p.m.-ish. Margaret reports that she heard shouting, clanging pots, and saw Peter walk out of the house before climbing onto the roof to smoke a joint. In her police interview, Margaret made sure to express her frustration that she couldn't call the cops because the pot was legal. 4:11 p.m. to 4:39 p.m. Angelina calls Grace at 4:11 and they speak on the phone until 4:39. Grace stated that the call was nothing out of the ordinary. Angelina complained about the usual stuff that will plague her weeks with mild annoyance, and whenever Grace would inquire about the Red Lobster incident, Angelina would get flustered and say she didn't want to talk about it. Grace noted that she would occasionally hear Clive's voice, followed by a sigh from Angelina. Then she would hear the receiver being pushed against her chest as Angelina attempted to mute their conversation. 5:30 p.m.-ish. In this police interview, Peter mentions that another argument occurred during dinner, in which he states that his mother at one point shouts, "I could just leave," which in turn prompted Clive to respond with, "Go ahead, no one will miss you." 6 p.m.-ish. Margaret reports seeing Angelina leave in a tizzy in her blue Prius, wearing exercise clothes. A few minutes later, Clive gets into his car. Margaret states that Clive got into the driver's seat, started the car, then went back inside, leaving the door open before returning, tugging Peter's arm and making him drive. 6:17 p.m. to 6:59. Buddy Bellucci, a police sergeant, reports that Peter and Clive arrived at the precinct. Joey states that a chipper Clive was showing Peter around the facility, who was enjoying looking around. Buddy stated that Clive received a phone call from Angelina, and Clive said, "Hey, where are you?" Joey reports that after Clive hung up, ending the call, he said to Peter, "Your mom's taking a walk at Great Lawn Park." This is where things get weird. Buddy Bellucci, many years back, when he and Clive were just starting in the police force, had been partners. The two were reportedly very close and spent many lunch and dinner breaks together. True crime bloggers believe that Clive put Buddy up to say these things. Also, no such cell phone call is present on either Clive or Angelina's phone records. 6:31 p.m. An outgoing phone call from Angelina's cell phone dialed 911 is ended after 14 seconds before the call is answered. This abruptly ended phone call is the last trace of Angelina Patterson. The interesting thing here is that according to the phone records, the call did not end from the end button being pressed. However, the cell tower lost track of the cell phone. The blogosphere believes that she was caught making the call, and her killer crushed the phone beside her car, or simply threw it out.